Hello and welcome to The Football Word. I'm Doug Guide. This is Zach Cox. And this morning we found out that Tom Brady is the 21st most famous athlete in the world.
Yep, lucky number 21.
Lucky number 21. So I have not seen this list yet. I'm going through this list for the first time right now. I only see the top four right now. And
Live reaction.
I guess I can understand how Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James, Lionel Messi, and Roger Federer could be more famous than Tom Brady. I just have a hard time believing there are 20 more famous athletes than Tom Brady.
Yeah. Phil Mickelson at number 5 is a bit of a stretch.
That is a bit of a stretch. I would not expect him to be more famous than Tom Brady. I guess golf is bigger than football as a sport.
Yeah, so because the thing about this list is it was a worldwide worldwide fame. It was called the World Fame 100. Mm-hmm. So it was obviously a worldwide thing, not just an American thing. Yep. And obviously American football isn't quite as popular outside of America.
Right.
Let's see the breakdown of this here. The 20 people who were higher than Tom Brady on this list. Five tennis players, 4 soccer players, 4 golfers, 3 basketball players, 2 cricket players, Usain Bolt and Ronda Rousey.
Is Kaka a cricket player?
Kaka is a soccer player.
Soccer player. Have not heard of Kaka.
The 2 cricket players are Virat Kohli and Mahendra Singh Dhoni.
Okay.
Which I probably pronounced both of those wrong. But I don't know who either of those guys are. Yeah. But I would assume that since India is such a big cricket hotspot, and there are quite a few people in India.
True. So I guess we're looking at how many people in the world have heard of these people. I don't know. I would love to know how famous Tom Brady is in India. That's my question.
That's true.
Who is Kei Nishikori?
Apparently he is a Japanese tennis player who I have never heard of in my entire life.
Yeah, this is interesting that there's now 4 names that I have not heard of above Tom Brady. I think the thing with Tom Brady, too, is that he's Gisele Bündchen's husband.
True.
So that has to account for something there. I feel like Gisele's probably pretty famous everywhere, you would assume, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, Brady took a pretty big leap. Apparently this is the second year that ESPN has done this list. Yep. He was number 52 last year.
Wow.
Now he's number 21, and he's still by far the most popular NFL player here.
Yep.
Cam Newton, number 2, all the way down at number 47. Then you got Drew Brees, Odell
Wilson's
Beckham,
in here.
Russell Wilson, some
Aaron
of these guys.
Rodgers.
But
interesting.
Yeah, it's apparently the NFL, even though it dominates American sports culture, not huge worldwide. Yeah. A little surprising.
Wow, it's amazing that Brady launched up to number 21 from 52. I guess a Super Bowl, a 25-point comeback will do that. Are there any baseball players on this list?
I don't know. I don't know if I saw any on there.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, I remember there's been some articles recently about how baseball doesn't have.
There's no stars.
Yeah, all of the baseball stars are now retired baseball stars.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek Jeter and players like that. Basically, it's. Mike Trout is the biggest baseball player in the world, but I don't think he's not a big doesn't have the marketing presence.
I don't know how many people would recognize his face in like the streets of Iowa or something. I don't know, even in the United States.
Yeah,
so,
and a thing about this list too was used a formula that combined social media following and internet search popularity. So Tom Brady's foray into Instagram actually helped boost his status considerably.
Probably knew that.
I know, he probably did, but
probably felt like there was a chip on his shoulder last year after he was number 52, just like number 199.
I think this is actually what drove him all season.
I think so.
This probably means more to him than his Super Bowl title.
Probably had a list in like his sock all season of the 51 more famous people than him. Now this year he's only got 20 up there, and Kaka number 18. He's got to pass Kaka.
Sure, he's got it, but hey, no Twitter account still. Had to give him a big hit. He was an NA in the Twitter category.
Wow, that's interesting. And Gronk is not on here. That surprises me a little bit.
Gronk is not, yeah.
After his foray into WWE, I figured that he might crack the list. But
yeah, apparently he's got to work on his worldwide brand.
Yes. So work on that, Rob. Getting into more football-specific things, not fame-specific topics. We watched OTAs on Thursday.
We did.
It was less than 2 hours, and we're going to try to stretch that 2 hours out into the next week or so because we won't be able to watch. I guess we're watching minicamp Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week.
Yes.
Is that right?
Next week should be relatively interesting, which is good.
Because we'll have plenty to see, plenty to talk about. But one of the more compelling positions on the Patriots this year is at cornerback. And one of the more interesting things that we saw at OTAs, and we discussed this a little bit on Between the Tackles, is that Jonathan Jones, last year's undrafted rookie, was in the defense as the starting slot cornerback. That was over Cyrus Jones. That was over Eric Rowe. And that's pretty interesting. So I guess the broader question is, who gets the most amount of snaps between those three players in 2017 on the Patriots defense? What do you think go?
Well, if I had to guess right now, before seeing how the rest of the summer is going to play out, I would guess Eric Rowe. Eric Rowe's not a slot corner by any means, but my thought going into the season is that Eric Rowe is going to come onto the field similar to what he had last year when Logan Ryan was in. He will come onto the field, bump either Stephon Gilmore or Malcolm Butler into the slot, depending on the matchups. And maybe if it's three bigger wide receivers, maybe you could see some Eric Rowe in the slot. I think they're going to move these players around a lot. Right now, I think he's the third best cornerback on this team. But it was very interesting to see Jonathan Jones out there. Obviously it's very early. I think they kind of just wanted to have Malcolm Butler, Stephon Gilmore out there as the two starters in their usual spots. And then basically it was I think it was a choice of Jonathan Jones over Cyrus Jones, which you can't really argue right now given the way that Cyrus Jones performed at the end of the last season. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting battle going forwards. How do you see this shaking out?
I would probably lean towards Rowe as well, but it actually kind of behooves the Patriots to not put Eric Rowe on the field that much this season, because if he plays, I think it's less than 50% of snaps, and the Patriots only have to give a fourth-round pick to the Eagles.
I think so, yeah.
And
I think
if he plays more than 50% of snaps, then they have to give the Eagles a third-round pick for Rowe. Rowe is signed through 2018, so even if he doesn't play that much this season, we're all assuming that Malcolm Butler is probably gone after this season, then Eric Rowe would be thrust into a starting role in 2018, so that would still make that trade with the Eagles worthwhile. Still having him as that third cornerback would be worthwhile. So, it might be Jonathan Jones if they think that if he has a really impressive camp as that slot cornerback, if he can step in and play that old Kyle Arrington role or even the last year's Logan Ryan role, then maybe we will see that. But overall, I still expect to see Daron Harmon as the fifth defensive back on the field most often. That would probably kick Patrick Chung down to the slot. But we could see a change there this year where maybe if Patrick Chung takes another step back, then Daron Harmon could come in nickel situations. Then they bring a cornerback, whether it's Jonathan Jones or Eric Rowe, on the field on third down. So I guess if mixing a lot of metaphors in my head right now. Feet to the fire, not gun to the fire. I guess I'd say Rowe, but it's going to be interesting.
What are you thinking? What's your sense of Cyrus Jones right now? We're in roster battles debate season. It's just starting up right now. He obviously did not have a great rookie season in general. Didn't look particularly good when we saw him in OTAs. Can't really take that much out of one OTA session there. But do you view him as a guy who's on the bubble, or a guy that you think they'll give another chance to just because he was such a high draft pick just a year ago?
I think he's on the bubble, and I think that we saw Dominique Easley, who was a first-round pick, cut after his second season. Cyrus Jones is a second-round pick. I think that if you keep him around hoping to get something out of him, even if he shows just little spurts of something here and there during training camp and OTAs and minicamp, then I think you're kind of wasting a roster spot. When you've got talented players like Eric Rowe, Jonathan Jones on the team, when you've got Justin Coleman, we'll see how these undrafted guys come along, but they've got three guys who are pretty highly sought after guys, and Dwayne Thomas, Kenny Moore, and DJ Killings, they're on the roster. They've got players at other positions. Maybe they don't even carry a fifth cornerback because they want to carry an extra linebacker, extra receiver, whatever it is. I don't think you can keep him around just because he was a second-round pick. And if he's in his own head on this, then if anything, he probably needs a change of scenery more than anything else. I know that we're giving up on him, or it sounds like we're giving up on him really early here. He's not even into his second season, but it's just how many times do we have to see the guy dropping punts or get beat as a cornerback before you start to think to yourself, okay, maybe it's not worth doing this anymore. He was a low second-round pick. It's not like he was the 30th pick in the draft. And even then, Razai Dowling, he only lasted 2 years too, and he was a high second-round pick in this team.
Yeah, I think we do kind of distort the fact that he was the Patriots' top pick last year. Doesn't necessarily mean he was an elite first-round talent, which he wasn't. Like you said, he was around at the very end of the second round. And I think it's going to be a very interesting to watch him and Jonathan Jones, how they both fare this summer. Because right now, Jonathan Jones is a guy who can contribute on special teams and on defense Cyrus Jones is a guy who can contribute on neither.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, I think his ceiling's obviously higher as a higher, more highly rated, highly regarded player coming out of Alabama. But if he's not contributing on punt returns and Jonathan Jones is outplaying him on defense, then it's going to be an uphill climb for him to make this team.
Yeah, at this point, I'd say that my hopes are low for him this season. I think the chances are probably better than not. They still makes the roster just because he was a second-round pick. But I wouldn't, if they have him make the roster and he's not playing better than Justin Coleman or DJ Killings, then that goes against what Bill Belichick always preaches, that it doesn't matter how you got here, it's what you do once you're here. And Cyrus Jones hasn't done a lot. So, and it's not like if Cyrus Jones doesn't pan out, the entire 2016 draft for them was a wash. They got Joe Thuney as a starting left guard. They got Vincent Valentine, who's their third or fourth defensive tackle there in the rotation. Malcolm Mitchell is an upcoming wide receiver. Landon Roberts might be their starting linebacker this season. Ted Karras is a backup guard, backup center. So that was a good draft for them after
overall,
1 year. If Cyrus Jones doesn't pan out, it's not like you're looking at that draft as like, oh man, what a terrible draft for the Patriots. It still looks pretty good there.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
So let's move on a little bit, actually back to the offensive line, discussing Joe Thuney and Ted Karras and all those guys. Gil Brandt did a list on NFL Media of what is every team's weakness, and he listed the Patriots' interior offensive line as their biggest weakness, while also acknowledging that this is a team without a lot of weaknesses. So I guess the question here is, do you agree with Gil that the interior offensive line is their biggest weakness, and if not, what do you think it is?
I don't think it's an outlandish take by any means.
No.
I think that's definitely one of the maybe 2 or 3 units that you could point to.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to declare their pass rush completely fixed. I like what they did to bolster the unit over this offseason with Coney Ealy coming in, and then with the 2 draft picks and Derek Rivers and Dietrich Wise. We don't know how they're both going to fit into this system. They're obviously the 2 draft picks were around in the middle rounds for a reason, and Coney Ealy was by no means a superstar when he was in Carolina. So I'm still not ready to say that unit is completely healed yet, but. Yeah, I mean, I think you can look at that interior offensive line, and it's hard to call it. I guess you can call it a weakness compared to some of the other more fortified units on the Patriots. I don't think that it's something that they really need to address, if that makes any sense, because I like the players that they have in that position. They're 3 young guys who are only going to get better. Yeah. But I don't know. What's your take here? It's kind of hard to pick out a weakness on this team.
Pass rush is a good one just because you don't know what you're going to get out of Coney Ealy. He wasn't very productive with the Panthers last season. Yeah. Rod Ninkovich certainly took a step back last season. Obviously, they've got Trey Flowers. You hope you get something out of Ealy. You hope you get something out of Derek Rivers or Dietrich Wise, but there's no guarantee there. So I might actually say that pass rush is still the biggest weakness. At the same time, you do have guys like Dante Hightower and Kyle Van Noy who can contribute, but that all depends on whether Bill Belichick is actually willing to use them as pass rushers and willing to use them as blitzers. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it all kind of depends on how David Andrews and Joe Thuney advanced this season, because Shaq Mason really came on strong at the end of the last season. He was a little weak in the Super Bowl, but I mean you're going up against extremely talented players there. But if David Andrews and Joe Thuney can prove that they can gain some bulk, gain some strength over the offseason, then I think that if anything that might become a strength for the team. It just depends on how much better those guys can get. So right now I probably would say it's those edge rushers, but obviously there is a lot of potential there because Ealy is a talented player, Rivers and Wise are talented players. They know what they're getting out of Trey Flowers, but that's an area where Patriots fans could still be complaining about that going into next season. Fortunately, they will not be complaining about the secondary. They will not be complaining about deep threats like they typically do, but pass rush, still a question mark there for the Patriots. One last thing, this is something that we did not touch on Between the Tackles because there was a lot of other things to talk about, but on Thursday, there were some new NFL rule changes implemented. Let's go through those real quick because we've talked about them ad nauseum on both of these shows, and it's kind of putting a wrap on those. NFL players are allowed to celebrate a little bit more now, which is good.
Love it.
The NFL teams. So yeah, I agree with that. That's good. I think it shows that Roger Goodell, kind of knows what he's doing here. He can fix things that he's previously broken.
I'm gonna reserve full judgment until we see what, because it wasn't a just a widespread, hey, you can celebrate however you want. They say they're going to be more lenient with the celebrations. They're going to allow more things. We still don't know what they're going to allow. Brandon Cook says he doesn't think he's going to be allowed to do his bow and arrow thing because it was a threatening act or whatever they called it last year. So it's still there's
got to worry about guys with bows and arrows. And it's 2017. That's one of the biggest threats to society is bows and arrows.
Just throwing it back to the Middle Ages.
Robin Hood is running around just shooting people all the time.
So yeah, I mean, there's a chance we could see something in maybe even like the Thursday night opener. Somebody's going to think they can celebrate. They're going to get flagged for it. I hope they don't. I hope they're lenient with it because come on, it's make football fun.
I agree. I support celebrations. Number 2, NFL teams can bring 2 players off injured reserve now, which I think that's great. It's turning a little bit more into the baseball rule where you can bring guys off the disabled list in this situation. Anyone who goes on IR at any point in the season can come back after 8 weeks? I
believe it's 8 weeks. Yeah.
So
it's half. I think they make it so it's half a season.
Right. Yeah. Last year the Patriots used that on Jacoby Brissett basically because there wasn't any other options. They were very fortunate with health last year.
Yep.
So since they were so fortunate last year, that could mean that they won't be so fortunate this year, and that just helps guys get paid. It helps guys. Just helps teams. Third one.
You want to see these players on the field if they're healthy. Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Third one. There's going to be only one cut down day now. There used to be this dumb cut down to 75 players before the 4th game of the preseason. Now they've eliminated that, and they're going to go from 90 players to 53 players after the 4th game. What do you think about that?
I mean, it makes sense. Like we said, the 75 cut down never really made a ton of sense.
Right.
I am interested to see how teams still will approach this, though, because I don't think the Patriots have been known for cutting people down. They don't wait until the cut down dates to cut people down. So, especially with veterans, we saw it with Nate Washington, we saw it with Terrence Knight and
Tommy Kelly back in the day.
Tommy Kelly, some other guys like that. They'll cut them off if they know that they don't really have a spot on this team. They'll cut them down early just to kind of give them give them an opportunity to latch on elsewhere. But yeah, I'm interested to see how the coaches adjust their strategy.
Right.
But it's going to be quite a busy day on whatever that last cut down day is this year. It's September 1st or late August, whenever that is.
Lots of names for
it's
NFL.
Be, what is it? 12, about 1,200 players could be released on that one day. So it's going to be a busy day for Nick Caserio and all them.
Definitely a lot of waiver claims the next day as well. And the final one, the NFL shortened overtime during preseason and the regular season. And if you don't remember me complaining about this before, which I complained about, like I said, ad nauseum, Bill Polian, the old Bills and Colts general manager, just came up to Roger Goodell one day and said, hey, how about we make overtime 5 minutes shorter? And Roger Goodell was like, oh, that's a great idea. And then all these dumb owners approved it, which is only going to lead to more ties. I don't think that, if you're trying to improve the safety of the game, I don't think that the area you improve it in is the last 5 minutes of overtime, a time period in which the majority, like 99% of NFL games, will never reach in the first place. I don't think that, players were falling like flies during those last 5 minutes of overtime. So I don't know. We'll see more ties this season, and it's going to change the strategy of overtime, which I guess will be kind of interesting, but at the same time, I don't know, just have them play football for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to the other senseless debate that we had for a month earlier this summer about the players jumping over the offensive line to block field goals. It's something that happens so sparingly that it doesn't seem like they should need a rule to regulate it out. I mean, how often do you, this past year we saw more ties than usual, but in most years you see maybe 1 or 2 games total that go past that 10-minute mark in overtime. Doesn't seem necessary. I'm not really sure what they're trying to accomplish here, but also it's so inconsequential that I don't really want to get worked up about it, so I don't really care.
I know. It is something that we won't even run into that often, but it's dumb. And there should be no overtime at all in preseason.
Oh, that is the worst rule in football.
They should barely even keep score in preseason. Who cares?
Yeah, just go back to like Mighty Mites. And we're just getting you guys out here to play. Just
give
having fun playing football.
Give them a bunch of participation trophies afterwards and get on with it. Gives them some orange slices at halftime. I don't know. But yeah, so those are the new rules. So 3 are good, 1 is bad. I guess that's 3 steps forward, 1 step back. That's not too bad.
75%, we'll take it.
For if there's like 20 ties next year, send all your hate mail to Bill Polian, because apparently if you're an ex-NFL general manager, you can just find Roger Goodell in an elevator one day and change the NFL rules. So that's cool for him and something else for Patriots fans to complain about him.
Yeah.
I could have worded that better, but whatever.
We'll have to find some new stuff to complain about before Thursday.
Yeah, and I'm sure I will.
Yep.
So there is not any OTAs this week, so we will, like you said, try to find things to complain about on Thursday with Michaela Vernava here in the studio. But that will do it for this week's version of the Football Word, and we will be back with Between the Tackles on Thursday.